Hey, what's up? This is Amazin.reacts reacting to a brand new video on my channel. Today's video is titled How to Write the Strongest and How Not. So it's going to give you two versions of the strongest, and it's talking about anime characters. When it comes to anime characters being the strongest, I feel like this situation comes from, for the most part, it's gonna feel like a little bit of glaze, but Gojo started this whole thing. Like there were always the strongest type of characters in anime, but JJK really emphasized on what it means to be like the strongest in the universe. Because before him, it was other characters like All Might, and there was a couple ones. I mean, you could throw Goku in there, but Goku isn't the strongest overall. He the strongest character, like main character, but a lot of his enemies and stuff like that are stronger, and he have to like work his way up. But yeah, we just gonna get in this video.
What makes a powerful character so great? There's a particular archetype that appears in many anime.
Yeah,
Let's just call
Gojo.
it the strongest. You know,
Even
the victor's
the
loyal,
term the
characters
strongest,
that
it seemed
just
like
do
it
something
started popping up
ridiculous
more
or
prevalent
surpass everyone else
once
because of
Gojo
incredible
came in the
effort.
picture.
They can act as a goalpost for other characters, or maybe
Dragon
even
Ball Super, I heard a lot about it.
and
I ain't never
powerful
watched it, but
skills. These
Beerus,
characters
and
usually
I
are
heard
relevant to
enough.
the story somehow. Emphasis on usually. Because of that, the way these characters are written can greatly impact parts of the story and greatly enhance it. The strongest characters act not just as
All
foundation
Might
for
is a
other
good one too.
characters, but the actual series they take part in. Let's explore some of these characters, examples of strong characters done well, how they can elevate the story they're in, or how they can be fumbled in many ways. What makes this archetype so important and impactful,
I want
and
to see
what
what he gonna
makes
say
it difficult
about
for a properly character?
Now Dragon Ball
There's
Z. I love
countless examples
Dragon
of
Ball
this across
Super. I
many
ain't
series,
watching it. I heard
and we've
enough
covered
about
many.
it to know
So
it ain't for
let's
me.
take a look at some of my favorites from series that I know well, and I feel I can analyze
Like I
well.
don't even consider
Without
Netero as
making
like the
this video be
strongest.
hours long. After all, the
I
focus
guess
of
I
this
give
video
my
is on writing the
definition
archetype, rather than
of what
looking
it
at
is.
each of these individual characters in depth. There would be redundancy at some point if we just went on and on.
Like oh
But let me
Meruem
look at
though,
a handful
I'll put
here,
him in there.
since we're just looking at certain aspects of them, instead of everything about their character. So if your favorite isn't in this video, that's probably why. There are also other characters who actually are the strongest, or very close to that, but it's not a huge part of who they are. So characters like that won't be discussed here. We're looking at characters who
Who is
are
he talking
way
about?
well framed
Beers?
like this, with that framing actually having some impact on the story. This isn't a power scaling video. So to sum it up, I chose a few characters that, one, I feel like I could do justice in
You
fumbling,
gotta do
which is meaningful
Gojo. Like
stories that
Gojo
carry
gotta
something with.
be in
Two,
here,
characters that
whether
each
you
have
like it
different
or not.
aspects of them, instead of characters that do things well but ultimately have a lot of similarities. And three, characters that have strength as a definite character trait, and not just an
Now I feel like both iterations of the strongest, like Gojo represent a good part of like being the strongest, and Sukuna, and they both in the same anime, and I think that's why JJK is kind of like leading the new school because of how those two characters are written. I mean, Yuji, he a good main character. He not my favorite, but he is a good main character. But I feel like Gojo and Sukuna, they really carry JJK,
influence. We're not power scaling, and I'm not glazing my favorite characters or whatever.
and
All
they not even
characters
in
are
the
actually
show
are
like
capable
that.
of strength in their verse, even if they've been surpassed or aren't technically the strongest. If they're narratively framed to be the strongest,
I like
they're
All
elite.
Might too as the
Let's look at
strongest.
a modern popular example,
Yeah.
one who's flat out dubbed as the strongest and is already pretty iconic. Actually, two of them, Satoru Gojo and Sukuna, both from Jujutsu
Oh,
Kaisen.
and just for reference, I've already read the manga, so I'm not getting spoiled. But if you haven't read the manga, I suggest you exit because it looked like it got spoilers. Because I mean, you can look at the screen right now.
The strongest of today and the strongest in history. First, Gojo, a very obvious and contemporary example, dubbed as the strongest on multiple occasions. Let's start with the basics. For a character to actually feel like the strongest, we need displays of that. Every fight Gojo takes part in makes him feel like a force to be reckoned with. In
Yeah.
JJK Zero, his first appearance, we don't get to see the full extent of his strength, which makes sense. It was a one shot, and it wasn't focused on him. But we still get a good feeling that he's the top dog. Not just that, but he uses his power to help cultivate the next generation.
To be honest, I didn't
That is
really
the
get
reason
that
he can
feeling when I
grow,
first
but he uses to help the
well, I
next
read
generation, particularly youth
JJK
members take part in,
Zero
as well as Megumi and
before the
Ichi
movie
later on
came
in the
out.
story, among his other students.
I knew he was
Gojo didn't
strong, but I
feel
didn't
like a
get he was
vessel of
just
physical
like
force.
the
He had a glimpse
strongest.
of that through his powers. The way he showcases his abilities and the types of fights he gets involved in, they all make him feel nearly unstoppable, especially when we see his growth and hidden inventory, as well as the learning.
And it's another thing I want to say. If it wasn't for the manga, like if the manga wasn't out before the anime, I feel like you could have put Gojo versus Sukuna. You could have put that on pay per view. I'm telling you, that got to be one of those fights. Regardless of what people say, what agenda they trying to push, nobody knew who was gonna win that fight. Now it was because of certain circumstances in the story that people kind of had like they kind of had their guesses on who would do it, and just because they guess right doesn't mean that they knew all the whole time. But listen, that was probably one of the best manga fights. Probably gonna be one of the best animated fights that I've read.
Learning more about his backstory during Shibuya. He actually feels like a force of nature. There's no doubt about his strength. We're told about it. We see it grow. We see it used in battle multiple times. He serves as a point of comparison for other characters. All in all, his strength feels tangible. But he also feels like a real person on top of that. Someone with the burden of immense strength, instead of just some character that is strong with no substance. So, besides the actual
I don't know
physical
about
power,
Gojo having a
it
lot of
feels
substance
tied to
though.
who he is as a person. I made a video related to the
Well,
style and
really,
how
he
his
did. I
strength
feel like
sort of hinges
Sukuna
on
had
things.
more
If you
substance
want a more in-depth look,
than him.
I got one
Like
in that video.
once the
But
you
in short,
got to know the
personality and
character.
mindset feel like they're actually connected to his strength. Gojo's
If
power
you're an
has
anime
immense
watcher,
power
then you don't know what
for
I'm
him,
talking about.
for those around him, like Gato, and for the entire story, the entire world within the story. Literally, his power shifts the balance of the world. He's not just strong for the sake of it. His strength has a purpose. The whole reason Shibuya happened was because
Yeah, I feel like Gojo's strength was necessary, necessary for the story because he got stronger, the curses got stronger, and I feel like that all it was like a domino effect for the new golden age of Jujutsu to start, and Kenjaku he just kind of capitalized on it. Even though he been planning it for a while, I think it happened at the best time. Even though he ran into the strongest version of a six eyes user, but I feel like the time that it happened was like the best time for Kenjaku to do like the Colon games.
hell, it's arguably one of the reasons the entire story happened in the first place, considering he shifted the world as a whole. When writing a strong character, they should have some narrative purpose. If they're just an instant win button, they're not compelling. They have to be an actual human, dealing with the consequences and responsibilities of that power that they have.
Yeah,
And that's exactly how Gojo's handled. He's not just there to win fights and be
that's when
unstoppable.
Ghetto dropped them
He
bars
nurtures the
on him.
next generation. He shows the downsides of absolute power. His existence causes problems to occur, but he still does act as a beacon of ultimate strength, and he feels like a force to be reckoned with. It's the perfect balance. And frankly, I feel like not enough people.
I feel like Gojo's conversation with Ghetto really helped you understand what type of person Gojo was, or the help you understand the burden of being the strongest. Whenever you talk to him, like in here, he said that like he not strong just to be strong. It's like a burden that comes along with it, and I really feel like in the chapter where we did the flashback from when they were young, I really think that helped people better understand his character, story wise too.
People give him the credit for that. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to drop a like. It really does help the channel. Subscribe
Yeah,
if
I'll
you're not
drop a
already.
like, and I'll put a link to
Next up,
this
Sukuna.
video in the
Directly
description.
related to what I said about Gojo, and he's a unique case on his own. He sets a historical precedent. Not only is he a strong character
I
who
like
is
Sukuna.
present in the story, but we also hear of him as a legend, both a fabled powerhouse and now an existing powerhouse, which makes him a really interesting case in my eyes. In terms of all the characters I'm going to cover in this video, he's one of two villains, and of those two, he's the only one that never actually redeems himself. Plus, he's also part of the protagonist for most of the series, which gives a unique angle. He's a known entity, but also is part of Yuji. So much of what he does is intertwined with Yuji's character. We see many JJK characters interpret strength or cope with it in different ways. Toji, Yoruzu, Kashimo, to name a few. Through them, we get a sense that there's some sort of solitude that comes with power. It's a theme present throughout the entire story. But like Gojo, Sukuna is outwardly named as the strongest, a few times throughout the story, actually. And he's a perfect representation of that archetype.
Sakuna just had
Just
the
like in
aura
Gojo,
of being the
but
strongest, so
outwardly
you
an
just
absolute
kind of
demon, kind of
understood.
both dealing with the themes and concepts surrounding that absolute power. With his reputation and how long he's lived, Sukuna knows everything about strength. It's basically all he knows. He uses his power to dictate his own life. He knows how strong he is, and
Please,
because of that, he feels he can do
if
whatever
y'all
he
haven't
wants,
read the
and it's
manga,
kind of
get out of
special.
here because these just
Kashimo
dropping
even asks him if that
spoilers.
ever gets boring, living his life like that. But Sukuna enjoys it, living as the strongest, being able to kill and eat whoever he wants.
Shout out
It's
to
enjoyable for him,
Kashimo.
and that's why he doesn't need love in his life. He
I
understands
know
that
a lot of
people,
people don't
but
like
also
his
knows better
character,
than
but
people. I'm
Kashimo
bringing
was
up this
he
aspect
was
of him because
Kashimo. He
this is
was
the
good
perfect
for what it
way to write
was.
a strong character. One that
I
understands
never
the
thought
power
highly of
of strength,
Kashimo like
and
that
one
though.
that's come to terms with it. A character falling into this archetype should know the
But I do
implications of being
love
free.
Sukuna
They should have a reason
talk
to
with
be there.
Kashimo.
Whatever that reason may be, it's important that they can come to terms with it and exemplify or articulate it. It also plays into what I said about Gojo before. Sukuna's power ties into who he is and how he acts, affecting the cast, the world, and the entire story around him. The way he acts is because of his strength. Strength plays heavily into the identity of the.
And I feel like when it comes to Sukuna's character, I like the way it was written because Sukuna he didn't really have like an ulterior motive. Like I feel like that was more Kenjaku. Kenjaku had like the plans of doing this. Sukuna was just like, bring me my opponent, I'll fight him, I'll figure out a way to beat him. Like his his like nonchalant and of course he represent I think it was like he was represent like a different form of enlightenment rather than Gojo. Like Gojo had both of them were enlightened. It was just in different ways of viewing it. And I thought that was amazing as far as his character. Normally, when you see a villain, you do want to connect with them, want to know how did they become this way? Why are they doing this? And I think sometimes, like when animes, when they take that route, they kind of like I don't know, they kind of like victimize the villain, and then you kind of feel a certain type of way, like oh, you kind of got a point. Whereas with Sukuna, you really can't do it. Sukuna is just the worst. You really can't even. You can't. There's no way you look at Sukuna, hear his story, and like, yo, he in the right. Sukuna's just he was wild.
These two characters. Gojo possibly not knowing who he is because of it. That identity crisis that started when Geto asked him, is he the strongest because he's Gojo, or the inverse? And Sukuna
See, Sukuna don't
knowing
care.
who he is, and knowing
Yeah,
his
he knew who he was.
power. Let's move
He
on
just
to
like
another
I do this
example.
for the love of
All
the
Might.
game.
He's one of my personal favorites from a series that I don't often talk about, but still hold very close to me. All Might from My Hero
My
Academia
Hero
is one of
goaded.
these
Now that it's over and you can see the
a
full
group of
picture,
characters that are
it's
unique in their
goaded.
own ways, and All Might's really unique because he loses that strength pretty quickly too. Similar to what I mentioned about Sukuna, we get a sense that All Might's always been there. He's strong in the sense that he's a legend.
And I feel like All Might is a good representation. I can't, I didn't hear if he said this was a bad representation. I think All Might is a good representation of the strongest, only because in All Might's situation, yeah, his time is over being a hero, but you see the effect that it has on the world. Like when they talk about the society in a whole as a whole, when he was running things or when he was like the number one hero, it sounded a whole lot better, and it almost make you when stuff go bad. It's like man, they really need All Might, and then he ain't coming back, but at the same time, it did like the world around him and society, the way they talked about it and how it was shaped. It really it just boosted your thought of All Might being the strongest.
Legend. But we actually don't see much of that, at least not early on. But through the way the series builds him up, even after he starts to lose his power, without even seeing any of his history, we get a sense that it's all true. He
Yeah,
really is the greatest hero.
that's the same
The
thing I
writing is
said.
written so well that we feel the same presence that characters in the story did. We get an understanding of how great he is. And not just that, but we get to see him go from the greatest hero to losing that power, as well as him passing the mantle on. A lot of the reasons his strength is so well written is because of some of the same stuff I said about Gojo. For one, he has a presence on screen. He's drawn in a different style from everyone else. He stands out by default. He has the catchphrase, I am here. He's physically imposing.
Yeah, I like
He's a
that.
giant man. Even down to his design, everything about him embodies that of a great hero. This is something I won't talk much about throughout the video because we're focused more on the writing side, but a character's design is also really important. With All Might, you could just look at him, you could tell he's powerful. His build, that smile that he has across
Yeah,
his face all the time,
I thought
and
Deku
all
was
the
gonna
shadows
get
that he's
like a
built
little
around
bit.
Meruem,
I wish we
those
would have
white
seen an
walls,
older
really
Deku
blends in him, and you could tell that he's
with
been built
like
to be a hero, a good guy,
One for All.
and one with some insane power. One aspect of him that I want to focus on is how his power is written. Not his physical strength, I mean his actual ability. One for all. Just as important as the character themselves, fleshing out their actual ability can be really helpful here. And All Might perfectly exemplifies this. One for all and all the context surrounding it. It embodies.
But they didn't really flesh out One for All until it got to Deku, because All Might couldn't do any of the stuff that Deku could do with One for All. Which they really didn't kind of. I don't know. Maybe they explained it. You can let me know in the comments. But I wonder why is All Might couldn't do it. Why he didn't have all those extra powers like Deku had.
Hope. Right from its origin, it was supposed to embody that. Of course, not every series can
Almost
write
like
power like
it's
this.
plot.
The way quirks work, and specifically how One for All works, that give us the ability to look at it in this light. But it still serves as a great example of how to actually display these powers. It's not just All Might who has a history, his power has a history. This quirk alone inspires just as much hope as All Might himself does. Throughout the series, we get a deep understanding of how it works, how it was passed
I
down,
think hit
and
that
what
whole
these
symbol
powers
of
are.
peace thing. I think
One
that
for
was
all
one of
has a
the
Deku. This
best
ties into one of the core themes of the
things
series,
for All
the
Might
fact that the
to
previous
like
generation
establish
passed
him
on
as the
the next
strongest.
generation of heroes, inspiring them with hope so they can inspire others with hope.
Yeah.
All Might's status as a legend and his loss of his power, those all help build up other characters in the series. For one, there's Endeavor. For a while now, and currently in the story, he's the number one hero. So it's also important to
Nah,
keep him in
Endeavor,
mind
man.
because he ties directly into All Might, but he also does
Endeavor
contest
is like
action.
the person that got the job
Endeavor is
when the
honestly a very
person that you
complex
wanted
character.
said no.
He basically requires his own analysis, especially with the sensitive topics surrounding him and how that context applies to his character.
I
As
do
I
like his
mentioned in the
character
beginning,
though.
this isn't an in-depth analysis of each character. We're looking at specific things
Like
about
from
how
the
they
way he
behave, how
started
they
to where
work.
he ended
And
it,
yes,
like
they
he
all
had a
also
good
directly
redemption
tie into
arc.
his strength and how he molded himself into the number one spot. But I don't want this entire video essay to be about Endeavor. He probably deserves his own video. So apologies that it's a little
Not
abridged.
about the
But
strongest.
even with that, we can see that his position as the strongest does come with a desire for some sort of change. Obviously, his whole life he's
I
looked
don't
at
think he
what it
represents the
being the strongest
strongest.
and
He
trying to
just
get to the top.
represents the
And he felt like he knew what
current
power meant.
available
There
or
was just
something.
something he wasn't grasping. And along the way, he did terrible things to
Not like a
accomplish it,
Gojo or
as well as
Sukuna
learning
or
more
All
about how
Might.
to accomplish that. And the reason I'm covering him here in the context of this video, it's all because of how he tries to understand All Might later on. He was always so focused on physical power, but he realizes that there's more to being the number one hero than just physical force. And
Yeah,
it's hard
it's
to
the
teach anyone
symbol of
there.
peace.
He tries to figure out what his power is actually for, what he wanted to use it for, and especially with the tainted legacy behind it, how to move forward and inspire hope like All Might did. Bakugo sums this up pretty well in chapter 247. When telling Endeavor what he plans to do, he knows that raw strength isn't all it takes to be the strongest. There's other aspects that come into play rather than just sheer power. Endeavor himself clearly has come to understand that. The work study not only served as an opportunity to have these three students grow, but also shows us what Endeavor is doing to grow as he realized what true strength
I don't know.
entails.
I still don't
True
think
hero
Bakugo
is
would
one
have
who has
ended
the
up as
toughest strength,
Endeavor.
and he has to learn
In the
what it means to
beginning,
be
they
one.
might have seemed that
He
way,
faced that
but
spot in
as you got to
chapter 2
learn,
one,
you know,
and
understand
now that he
Bakugo
has it, he
character,
realized that he
I
never
don't think he
fully
would ever
comprehended
ended up like
it,
him.
rooted and grown with it more throughout the story. Just as Deku has to do when he gets one for all. He's always admired All Might as a fanboy, and to an extent, he did understand what it means to be a hero, especially at that level. But both Endeavor and Deku were viewing this from wildly different angles,
You
and
can
they did see
also
both
put
different components,
Shigaraki in there as the
serving each in
strongest.
their own ways and
I feel
fulfilling
like
unique
Shigaraki,
purposes. They
even
weren't
more so than All for
a
One.
hero and becoming a symbol of hope like All Might. It isn't just them either, but these two best exemplify this within the series. The title of the strongest is a mantle that can be taken in the series, but these characters have to fully learn and understand what it means to be the strongest. And even if they do have a flawed perception of it, they eventually learn to comprehend it more and grow from that. Next, onto two other great examples. Again, both from the same series and both contrasting each other. Isaac
I,
Necro and
I don't know
Meruem.
about Isaac Netero,
I think
but
it's pretty critical to have them
Meruem,
as two sides of
I
the
think
same
he
coin from
represents
the
the
start.
strongest.
Netero, the head of the Hunter Association with massive power, and Meruem, the king of the Chimera Ants, born to be the greatest embodiment of
Because
power.
even though
These are
Netero was
characters
the
who we actually
strongest,
rarely
I
see
don't
fight.
think
Really, the
like he
only notable
got
one that has
older,
that one
and
time in the
I don't
story,
think they
and
respected
they
him
both
like
die
that.
within that same arc. And Meruem exclusively exists within the
Like the
arc,
ants,
yet he
the
did make a
Meruem. I
profound
mean,
impact and fits this archetype at this point in the story. I also
I think Meruem represent because while he was fighting the quote unquote strongest hunter, see that's why I was saying about the strongest. Netero was fighting the strongest. I mean, Meruem was fighting Netero, the strongest hunter, but Netero wasn't the overall strongest. I feel like Meruem was. Even when he was fighting, he was just continuing to grow, learn. Like he was a better representation of the strongest than me. And by the end, I don't even know if he was a villain or a hero. I don't know. He changed so much that I don't know. I like his character.
did have an essay about him. You should check it out. Sorry, had to clear my throat. Anyways, Netero was always shown to be a powerful adversary. Besides his position, we see a glimpse of his abilities during the Hunter exam. Despite never seeing him go all out until his death match with Meruem, we still get a sense that he's powerful, like the other two
Like
students
even that
later in this
death
video.
match, Netero
Of
was
course,
just.
we see this to an extent when he's toying
It
with
seemed
Gojo,
like he was
the exam is
outmatched or
but we
outplayed.
also get a sense of this just by his presence and demeanor. Everyone has a great sense of respect for him, and they revere him as a master in his field. It isn't until the Chimera Ant arc that we get to learn more about him, getting a look at his past and watching him train decades prior, looking at what exactly makes him so great. It's a perfect example of show, not tell. We aren't just told that Netero devoted a good portion of his life to having his mind, spirit, and body honed to perfection. We're shown it. We're shown the painstaking things that he went through for that, and how he ultimately improved himself.
Oh, now
Master of martial arts, then
him
master
reaching.
himself,
Matter of fact,
perfecting the body and mind.
I wouldn't say that is good because his background story about how he kind of reached enlightenment whenever he learned when he was learning Nin and doing all that stuff out there in the woods. That is a good representation of the strongest. How he became the strongest at that time. It's just when I think about the strongest, I'm thinking about like nobody can see them except like another person who I view as like the strongest. Cause I feel like I said, Netero, the strongest hunter, yes. But when you compare the strongest hunter versus Meruem, Meruem was like seemed like he was in a different league. You see, Netero ended up blowing him up.
Mind alongside it. He was always built up throughout the story as being one of the strongest people around, and it eventually pays off when we get to see his full power against Meruem. I called each of them two sides of the same coin because that's what they are. They contrast each other. Netero worked his whole life for his power, while Meruem was born with it. They serve as a dichotomy, showing two different avenues of power, which is why I'm covering them in this video.
And see, that's why I say
Meruem
the
shows
strongest
the
because he
powerful
was
side of it.
born with it.
Being
But
born into
even
it,
being born with it,
Bakugo kind
his
of sees
talent,
it,
he just
gaining his
kept
power
growing
only
and
instead of
learning.
work and focus. As for Meruem, he displays a different side of his power too. Not only is he far above everyone, but he acts like it too. Immediately after his birth, He acts as the embodiment of power and influence. His power is the result of thousands of lives being lost to fuel him.
He, to be
And his
honest,
ability to
Meruem
control strength
represent
and royalty.
Sukuna at the
Yet,
end of
in
JJK.
his short life, he comes to learn that strength has corrupted him in a way. I go more in depth about this in that
Yeah,
Meruem video. I'm not shamelessly plugging it because I want you to watch it. I'm recommending it because it gives more context
I
and
might check it out.
breakdown about this.
Yeah, I'll
In
check
terms
out
of how
your
it
other
relates to
videos.
this
I like
issue,
this one.
Meruem grows bored with his gift. He has so much power and intellect that he can't really do much with it. He's just above everybody. He only faces his first physical challenge against Netero and his first mental challenge against Komugi. Both these forms of his strength are broken down against these opponents, and he goes through a rebirth, metaphorically and literally, realizing that with his power he really had no purpose in life. And strength doesn't give someone purpose. It's other things that give purpose. Beforehand, he was the king. He could have whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. He was royalty and the pinnacle of physical force.
Yeah,
His case is unique, starting as the strongest and growing physically stronger too, yet rarely displaying his physical power and becoming more human as this happens. And he learns that happiness won't come from just being the strongest and being royalty. It comes from the little things. Ironically enough, the strength of small
and it
things is
just
shown
showed
by
him
Gojo,
not just
being shown
physical
by his
force.
ways. This
It's
wasn't
just him
something
learning like
done by a
being
minor
more
cell reaction.
intellectual because he kept
Power,
trying to
these
like
don't
beat
come
her
from
at the
great evolved
game
things.
and using
They come
different
from the little
combinations
things.
of the game to
Teaching
beat
that
her,
shows different
which
avenues of how to
she
attain
he
power.
kept losing, but
And
he
from
kept
Meruem, we
growing.
see how strength is broken down. When writing a character with such
And they
strength,
displayed it when he
this is a
fought
good way
Netero.
of looking at it, showing the faults of it and not just the upsides. Everyone I've covered so far pretty much embodies that. They show the upsides of power, but also the downsides of it. They understand the responsibilities and the consequences of their power. And if they don't understand that, they learn to understand it. Their strength affects their identity and the people around them in such amazing ways. They have a presence on screen. We actually feel like they're the strongest. And because of all that, now I'm going to cover an example that doesn't really show this. At least not in
Let's
my
see.
eyes.
So I think
A
all of
good
these have
example
been
from a
good
character that
good
I actually
examples.
like a
I
lot.
already know
One
who it
who's
is.
entertaining for me and kind of
Dragon Ball
embodies the same
Super.
archetype, but
Listen, I am not watching Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball Z was peak. Once the Buu saga ended, they should have ended it, but I guess they kept it going. GT, I remember watching it when I was younger. It was all right. It wasn't enough for me to even finish watching it or even go back to even attempt it. Dragon Ball Super. Now, mainly the animation is why I don't go back and watch it. Although the I did watch the Dragon Ball Super movie, and that animation was good. But normal Dragon Ball Super the animation what threw me off from the beginning. I don't know. It looked more cartoonish than an anime. But then I would see different clips and stuff about what's going on in there. So I know all about the Tournament of Power and all this other stuff. And it just don't seem like it's for me. Maybe if I was younger, yeah, but me now, with all the anime that's out and how technical power systems have gotten, I just them just throwing fireballs and energy balls, it just ain't for me. I'm sorry, I know that made a lot of people mad because I did another video talking about Dragon Ball Super, but it is what it is.
has a lot of shortcomings when embodying that. Beerus from Dragon Ball. I like Beerus, I really do,
I don't.
but I don't think I think he's a good example of this. There are some good things about him, but none of what I like about him has to do with his strength and how
And maybe I don't like him because I never seen him fight though.
he's
That
portrayed as
might
the
be one too.
archetype. When it comes to him fitting this archetype, I think he's an example of how to not
Cause
write the
they just
strongest.
make somebody
Yeah, he
strong
doesn't
just to be
technically
strong.
have the
Yeah,
strongest
like
archetype in Dragon Ball,
keep going.
but I think he is supposed to fit that archetype really well. And clearly, since his introduction, he was meant to be this goalpost as the strongest for Universe 7, setting up a more expansive story and multiverse that we see in Super. And my issue with him isn't his consistency or lack thereof. Personally, I think his strength is actually relatively consistent because it's so vague. Rather, I'd say the issue for him is the fact that him being strong is never really explored. We don't know how he got there. We don't see him do much with that strength, outside of some scenes of the manga. He acts as a goalpost, but up until the Granola arc, it felt like he didn't do much to push people up to his level after his introduction. Goku was meant
Mm.
to be his rival, although Whis the one to teach him, and Beerus just really sits there. Yes, he at least taught Vegeta and tied to his development somehow, but Beerus never really feels as involved in the story as he should. Not that he has to always be doing something and be in every scene, because he already pretty much is in every arc as is. In every arc of
Maybe
Super,
if he had like a
if he
hidden
wasn't
agenda to
involved in
take
development,
over
he couldn't
the
hold the
other
knowledge. But this
universes
is
or
a focus
something,
there.
like he needs
We
something
never
to show
really
he
get
got
involved with his strength.
some
We get
I
brief
don't know.
glimpses of his power, but without the substance of the other characters that I've mentioned before. He's just there. We're told he's strong. We're never shown it. And again, I like his character. I actually like the fact that he's a lazy guy. His personality is endearing for me. But we never get any insight as to what his relationship is with strength, or his ideals about it, outside of some vague ideas about what it takes to be a god of destruction. In simplest terms, for me, it feels like Beerus' strength isn't actually intertwined with his character. He's strong, but superficially. It feels like his strength is separate from him. What little nuance is there for him isn't actually tied to his strength at all. And when it comes to others in the series, he commentates and observes, but rarely from his own perspective. For example, whenever Goku does something impressive, Beerus' input is just, oh no, he's going to surpass me, or wow, great job. There's no insight beyond the surface level. The closest we get
Yeah.
is in the Granola arc when he has some sort of relationship with his power while teaching Vegeta. He has an actual investment
And I
in
guess
Vegeta's
we don't
growth,
have a
and that's
background
great.
story
It
for him
feels like
either.
this for the entirety of Super and not just Battle of Gods in the Granola arc.
Maybe if we
It's
add
just
that,
much better. You ever notice that
unless
people
he
always
just
call
came
Beerus
into
a
power, I don't know.
goalpost? It's an interesting thing to call him. I think his power is actually consistent, but the notion that he's a goalpost actually feels fitting. Like he's just a goalpost, and a far one at that. Maybe people feel that way because he's never displaying this power, and the series never delves into it. He showcases what it's like when a strong character is just a goalpost. Exactly what I was saying not to do before. And remember with Gojo, I said he doesn't just feel like an insta-win button? Beerus literally does that in the Mora arc. And by the way, the Mora arc is my favorite arc in Super. It's actually one of my favorite
I ain't
video
gonna. I
arcs
don't know
in
what.
general.
I don't
What
know what
Beerus does
arc that
every
is.
watch gives some unhelpful
Now
commentary,
I don't know what
and
they
then
doing in the
it's actually
manga.
bad, and things like
I
this
just
just
seen
make people
clips
listen
of like
even
the
happier,
anime.
and
I
it
ain't
feels
never
like I
just
actually
seen
enjoy
like
watching.
stuff
Is it
about the
really interesting to just have him commentate
manga.
everything? I don't want him to be involved in the fight. That would obviously ruin the tension, but he's handled so haphazardly here. He acts as that insta-win button that I mentioned before. I definitely feel like he's intended to fit this archetype, and that's what his role feels like. But the execution feels so lacking. We're totally strong, and we kind of see it sometimes, but never really in depth. The most he does is act as a safety net, insurance for the others, and undeserved insurance at that. Dragon Ball does have a good example of the strongest archetype, though Goku. And you could argue that he does serve as that archetype as the
I don't
strongest in the
know.
series, but more so for the Z era.
Goku is good. Matter of
And
fact,
obviously,
I do love that Goku. I've been saying this like all my life. I think Goku is like the greatest anime martial artist because a lot of times if and during like Goku's fight, he don't like sometimes if he can't beat you, he is probably about the only one that gets a little technical because if Dragon Ball was really about like the martial arts and the style of fighting, and Goku probably the only one who will really tap back into that whenever he needs to win. Like he's so good at martial arts that he can figure out a way to overcome and beat some enemies.
out of everyone I covered in this video, he's the only one who's actually the MC as well, besides that brief bit about Deku. And I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but I actually made a video on this topic too. I'll also link that above. So I won't cover too much about him in depth here because, well, it's the whole point of that video. That's exactly what I'm trying to convey here. Weirdly enough, now that I think about it, I didn't intend for those videos I mentioned to be connected to this one. It just so happens that they are. Anyway, even Jiren stands as a good symbol of this in a way, which is obviously saying a lot because
Jiren, I know
as
about
we know,
him.
Jiren isn't
I
necessarily
know about
a
the
weak
Ultra
character.
Instinct.
He
Yeah, I
handled
remember
Naruto in
that.
his favor,
Which
but actually
again is
towards
just
his ring,
another
he's
form
kind
of
of
like
becoming
Super
weak,
Saiyan.
and
They
we get
just
to see
changed the
actual
color of the
version of
hair
him
and
in
he's
strength.
stronger.
So even though to some people it might feel like the bare minimum, it feels like more than Beerus. Side note, I actually really do like Jiren as a character. As flat as he feels, I think he portrays the idea
And
of
then
the
yeah,
strongest
Frieza
man to the
fighting
most
with him. I
part.
remember when
Because
that
out of
first
these
happened. I
people,
saw that on the
Jiren
internet.
actually feels
Man,
better. But back on topic. Point being,
they
in
watered
all of
down
Dragon
Frieza
Ball, Beerus
character.
is supposed to be the symbol of that strength, and he's a definite, constantly present stand-in for that archetype. Strength shouldn't be a personality trait that exists in a vacuum. It can be a trait of their personality, and sometimes that's amazing, but only when it coexists with other aspects of the character as well as the story itself, not just an idea that stands on its own without any weight behind it. I think that pretty much sums up my thoughts on everything. There are so many unique ways to write a strong character, and there's so
Yeah.
many different angles you can look at it from. Strength can introduce an identity crisis, like through Gojo, or a character could completely come to terms with their strength, understanding exactly what they want to do with it, and having that influence their entire personality, like Sukuna. The strongest archetype could act as a symbol for all other characters, inspiring them or even literally passing the strength on, as All Might does. Or a character could try and comprehend what it means to be the strongest, like Endeavor or Deku. It's always beneficial to see how a character gets their strength, like Netero, or how there's some negative aspects with it and it's not really too fulfilling, like with Meruem. And at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, it shouldn't just be a trait that exists without
Piccolo,
any
what's
sort
he
of
on the
endpoint.
screen for?
If a character is just the strongest for no reason and never displays that strength, or has no relationship with it in general, what's the point of that power in the first place? As we saw with Beerus. I know there were a lot more characters I could have covered. Like a lot of people suggested Ben and
I'm
Marvel,
surprised he didn't put
but I just suck,
Saitama in
so
there.
I can't cover that here. But now I want to hear from you. Which character
Which
do
I
you say
think
is the strongest in your
Saitama
movie?
is
And it doesn't have to be an
a
anime
bad
character either, it
example
could
of the
be anyone.
strongest.
Someone from a video game, a movie, a TV show, anything. And what do you think about the examples I outlined in this video? I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on my next video. What made
Now, this was a great video by the way, but I agree with a lot of his takes. Uh Gojo, Sukuna, Meruem, Netero, I don't agree. He is a good example of the strongest, but when you compare him to those three, or like the strongest that I feel like he was going at, I don't like Netero in there. But if you put in the backstory, he kind of fit the mold. And then he only gave seemed like he only gave one bad example. Cause I don't consider Endeavor a bad example because I don't feel like Endeavor should even been in the category. But Goku, it's a little iffy. I think Goku is pretty like he pretty relatively close to the people that he fight. Even if it is someone that's stronger, he'll get there. Whereas it feel like they feel like Beerus, the way they be talking about him and the stuff that he can just destroy a universe. I don't think like Goku and any of them are gonna get close to where he is. But it just feel like he just kind of dull. Like that's his whole identity is like I'll threaten to like destroy stuff. Cause I ain't never seen a clip of him fighting. No, except for like he was fighting Goku when he had like red hair or something like that. That time, but even then, like as strong as he is, I guess he was just playing around with Goku or something. I don't know. I don't really know the lore behind that. But all in all, this was a good video though. I do enjoy it. Sukuna, man, I can't wait till y'all see. If you're an anime watcher, I can't wait for y'all to see the Gojo versus Sukuna fight. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.